The Titans hired the Chiefs assistant GM, Mike Borgonzi, who is the 16-year Chiefs assistant general manager. So we already know what he's credited with. He's been there since 2009. So he's watched Andy Reid come in. He watched the team be stacked with Alex Smith, who they brought in. He had a hand more than likely in drafting Tyreek Hill. Now, you got to be careful with that assistant GM because people say that he was kind of the do boy early on and then he moved his way up. Probably had a hand in drafting Tyreek Hill, getting Travis Kelce. Like when you're assisting the GM who is helping make these decisions, you got to deserve some credit. Getting Patrick Mahomes, winning 3 Super Bowls with a chance to win your 4th. Well, was a chance to win your 4th until you got hired as the GM. You were in the middle of a dynasty. Tons of positives. I mean, coming from the best NFL team over the last 6-7 years. And now he is your GM. He is not an assistant GM. He is now your general manager. On a scale of 1 to 10, I think this is at least an 8.5 to a 9. You're going to tell me that an assistant GM who is coming from a team, again, who has won 3 Super Bowls, been to 4 while you were there, now they're in the 5th with a chance to three-peat with a team that you helped build, I don't know if there's any negatives from this. I really don't. Titans fans have every right to be happy about it. They have the number 1 overall pick. I'm going to look up really quick how much cap space they have because I didn't even think of diving into that. The Titans have $44 million in cap space, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, if I counted that correctly. Yes, the Titans are 11th in cap space. They have the number 1 overall pick. They just hired a new GM. Brian Callahan can still be a solid coach. I know people weren't sold on him in year 1, but you had Will Levis, all things considered. DeAndre Hopkins is traded away from the Titans over to the Chiefs, so you end up losing a guy in DeAndre Hopkins. I mean, this team was down to the studs just about. A very awful, excuse me, guys, a very awful Titans roster. It just was not good. There's no way around it. So Brian Callahan deserves a little more slack, but when you get a GM in the building like this, who is responsible for what he did with the Chiefs, excuse me, guys, the Titans are very, very much on their way to a very nice rebuild. I mean, having a guy like this in the building can help you make those effective trades. Grab that quarterback of the future, even though I do believe the Titans do need to commit to developing a quarterback seriously, because you take Malik Willis, you take Will Levis. What's the situation here? What is truly the situation here for this GM to jump in and get a quarterback? You have the number 1 overall pick. Is it going to be Cam Ward? Is it going to be Shedeur Sanders? Is it going to be some of, is it going to be a Travis Hunter? I do believe that it should possibly be a skill position player outside of quarterback. Now, we know quarterback is very important, but Will Levis didn't have a lot to work with. And I think if you give him another year with Brian Callahan, you'll see a better improvement. I don't think you'll see as bad as it was. But if the Titans have the number 1 overall pick, can they really pass on a quarterback like Shedeur or Cam Ward? It's going to be a hard decision. It really is. So if we had to estimate a length of the rebuild, essentially, until Tennessee is competitive again, I'd say about 3 years, probably. Maybe 2 if they're lucky. 1 if it's a godsend rebuild. Let's just say that. But these teams that have been able to turn around in 1 year, like the Texans, like the Commanders, like the Bengals kind of did in 1, maybe 2 years if you want to be technical. I think it might be pushing up on 3, before the Bengals turned it around. I'm going to say about 3 years. You need to get a quarterback in there that you can develop. This roster is bare, so you need defensive talent at a lot of positions. Or excuse me, not defensive talent, because I know that the Titans were actually 2nd in the league this year in defense, which is very remarkable. But when you look at what the offense hasn't necessarily been capable of, you're going to need to build that roster up. You're really, really going to need to build that roster up because it's nothing to play about. And yes, the Titans did have the 2nd best defense this year, just behind the Eagles, with 311 yards given up per game. So they've got things locked down on the defensive side of the ball for yards. But when you look at points, they gave up 27 points per game, which is third worst in the league. The Niners were fourth worst. The Jags were fifth worst. The Cowboys were second worst. And the worst was the Carolina Panthers. And when you go and look at the Titans depth chart, I mean, after trading away, you trade away Derrick Henry is out of the building. DeAndre Hopkins gets traded. You've got Tony Pollard and Tyjae Spears in your backfield. Calvin Ridley is kind of a long lost sentiment now. I mean, let's just call it what it is. Yes, you have a Tyler Boyd, but it's just not much to work with. I mean, thankfully, they got Peter Skoronski a couple years ago. And when you look at some of the defensive side of the ball, yeah, they do have some players. Chidobe Awuzie, which is okay. You've got a Jerome Baker. You've got an Artie, a Jeffrey Simmons. But you need more talent overall because you cannot give up a lot of yards, and that's fine. But when you give up a lot of points, that's cause for concern. And I think this rebuild is really going to have to be predicated on developing a quarterback, which this GM will have a lot of a hand in, and also the fact of being able to develop a roster. Can you bring over some of those same sentiments that the Kansas City Chiefs had? Can you honestly do that? Can you replicate that success? I'm not asking you to take this team to 5 Super Bowls and win 2 or 3 or 4 of them. Nobody's asking you that. But can you bring that Andy Reid, the Brett Veach, the Lamar Hunt, or not Lamar Hunt, the Hunt family ownership? Can you bring all of that over? Can you? Because that's what a lot of Titans fans are seeing. That's what I'm seeing as a Saints fan looking in on this. What a hire. The assistant GM for the last 16 years who has brought in the entire dynasty that's in there now. I'm not saying he picked them because we know that that's Brett Veach. We know that that's Andy Reid for a good part. We understand that a lot of this team, though, was built while Mike Borgonzi was there. Borgonzi, however you say his name. So I know that's what the Titans are looking at. If he can bring some of that credibility over, I think the Titans have a great chance at rebuilding in 2 to 3 years. Again, I'll say it's about a 3-year rebuild. 2 if they're lucky, because you got to be able to develop Will Levis or take your quarterback of the future in year 1. Hope that he turns out like a Jaden Daniels or a CJ Stroud in year 1. If not, get him prepared for a year 2. You have to go get a ton of talent. You have to go get star players because this roster is bare. I predicted the Titans not being great this year, and rightfully so. They have the number 1 overall pick. So let's see what they're able to do. Let's truly see what the Titans are able to do with a new GM.
Hey, it's AJL here. Appreciate you sticking to the end of the video here on YouTube. You could have chose any other show, but you chose my video, and for that, I'm very grateful. If you haven't already, please make sure to like and subscribe to the channel. Follow me on social media. Hit the bell on the channel so you never miss a post. Check me out on all social media platforms. Right here, you'll find a chance to subscribe to the show, a related video, and a playlist. See you guys in the next one.